Chapter 411. Blood Flame Shoes. Wang. Wang. The red saber chi instantly penetrated through the massive boulder ahead, leaving a finger-sized hole. After that, its strength had not diminished. It only stopped after penetrating hundreds of huge stones and flying at least 1,000 meters. When Xiao Chen saw this, he revealed a shocked expression. He had not even used a tenth of his strength in this saber chi, yet, the effects were astonishing. If Xiao Chen had used the pure lightning attributed essence, this move would only smash through 10 huge stones at most. Furthermore, it had smashed through, not penetrated, the stones. Lightning attributed energy was too berserk. It was not as dense as the state of massacre and would scatter easily. That was to say, after infusing the state of massacre, the might of his saber chi had more than tripled. Furthermore, it became denser and sharper. Xiao Chen pondered, the power of the Scarlet Throne is outrageous, even shocking. Xiao Chen had not cultivated any cultivation technique or martial technique that involved the path of killing. Logically, he should not have been able to comprehend the state of massacre. However, with the Scarlet Throne, Xiao Chen's state of massacre was much stronger than some of the cultivators who cultivated the path of killing. The secret treasure left by the ancient evil king had too many secrets. It would be challenging for Xiao Chen to unravel all of them with his strength. Xiao Chen shook his head and decided not to think about this problem, as long as he could guarantee that he would not sink into depravity. When he became strong enough, all the secrets would naturally reveal themselves. When Xiao Chen's spiritual sense picked up the location of the red-robed blood demon's demon core, he quickly flew over. The demon core that could compare with one from a high-ranked blood demon was a valuable item. Cultivators who wanted to temper their mental energy would spend a large amount to buy it. Xiao Chen landed and waved his hand, sucking the demon core into his grasp. After that, he revealed a faint smile. Now that Xiao Chen had finished his target, it was time to check on his prize. Xiao Chen took out the pair of black shoes from his universe ring, a true medial-grade secret treasure. When cultivators reached the Martial King realm, the effects of inferior-grade secret treasures would start to weaken. As for medial-grade secret treasures, they were useful until the Martial Monarch realm. With these shoes, Xiao Chen would not have to worry about secret treasures of such type for a long period. A medial-grade secret treasure had a stronger mark than inferior-grade secret treasures. After spending some effort, Xiao Chen finally managed to brand his own mark onto it. Since Xiao Chen had become the owner of these shoes, he had to give them a name. These shoes did not look much different from ordinary shoes, they seemed rather normal. Only, their color was deeper, and their spiritual energy aura made them extraordinary. Xiao Chen touched the shoes gently with his hand. He could feel a fine pattern on them. As he touched them, the pattern slowly released a faint radiance. When the pattern completely illuminated, it turned out to be a black-winged blood flame eagle covering the entire shoe. The wings spread apart like it wanted to fly, looking very lifelike. Legend said that the blood flame eagle was the spirit beast with the fastest flying speed. A blood flame eagle with black wings was the king of this type of spirit beast. However, this spirit beast was already extinct on the continent. Black-winged blood flame eagles had not been seen for the several thousand years. Xiao Chen muttered, since there is a pattern of the black-winged blood flame eagle, let's call these the blood flame shoes. Xiao Chen put on the blood flame shoes and walked around. It was time for him to test out the might of this medial-grade secret treasure. Relying on the Azure Dragon Cloud soaring art, Xiao Chen could reach at least Mach 2. With the aid of the Windwalk shoes, he was very close to reaching Mach 3. Xiao Chen did not know what impact these blood flame shoes would have on his speed. Anticipation filled Xiao Chen as he quickly circulated the Azure Dragon Cloud soaring art. Shoo. Xiao Chen's figure sped through the air, and he almost crashed violently into the huge stone 200 meters ahead of him. What amazing speed! Xiao Chen was startled. If I really crash, it will be too embarrassing. Xiao Chen quickly pushed off the ground and changed his direction. Xiao Chen darted around the stone forest, turning corner after corner. After the initial fluster, he finally grew accustomed to the blood flame shoe's speed. After that, Xiao Chen used his full power, not holding back his essence as he executed the Azure Dragon Cloud Soaring art to its limits. He wanted to test the full extent of the blood flame shoe's speed. Xiao Chen weaved in and out of the stone forest. In this complicated environment, testing the blood flame shoes also tested his reaction speed. After a while, Xiao Chen stopped. An excited smile appeared on his face as he said, "My speed reached Mach 3.5, faster than my original speed by 30%. Medial-grade secret treasures truly deserve their fame." Xiao Chen could not help his excitement. For the Martial King realm, unless he had some special fortuitous encounter or had the wind attribute, his peak speed could only reach Mach 4. To most martial kings, Mach 4 represented an unsurpassable hurdle. Furthermore, with Xiao Chen's speed of Mach 3.5, even if he met a peak half-step martial monarch, he was confident that he had a 50% chance of fleeing. His chances of survival had increased significantly. However, Xiao Chen felt unfortunate at the fact that the blood flame shoes achieved this so easily. That was to say, if Xiao Chen's base movement speed increased, his overall movement speed could also increase. After all, the Azure Dragon Cloud Soaring art was a heaven-ranked movement technique. Xiao Chen moved faster than cultivators of the same cultivation realm. Xiao Chen had practiced the Azure Dragon Cloud Soaring art to small perfection long ago. However, his progress stopped there. He could not break through the bottleneck. Heaven-ranked movement techniques had rigid requirements. If one's cultivation did not reach a certain level, it would be impossible to improve. According to the records in the secret manual, after the Azure Dragon Cloud Soaring art reached consummation, Xiao Chen could roam the heavens and earth, riding on 18 Azure Dragons. With the aid of the Azure Dragons, he could break through the barrier of the sky and enter the world above. He could travel to the boundless depths of the sea, reaching the deepest point of this world freely. Clearly, Xiao Chen had only scratched the surface of this movement technique. For now, there was no possibility of advancing it further. Hence, he felt it was unfortunate for the pair of blood flame shoes. When Xiao Chen looked at the black shoes, at the faintly inscribed black-winged blood flame eagle, he felt curious. Secret treasures would certainly not contain anything useless. The materials needed to make secret treasures were rare. No blacksmith would waste his materials. Hence, the black-winged blood flame eagle pattern was definitely not just used for decoration. I have to try it, Xiao Chen thought. He slowly circulated his essence to his feet and passed it through the soles of the shoes. He slowly sent his essence to the indented pattern. Just as Xiao Chen's essence just touched the pattern, the remaining essence liquid in Xiao Chen's purple chi whirlpool surged and drained rapidly. Boom! The pattern on both shoes lit up at the same time. Its light became resplendent as two piercing bird cries resounded. The blood flame eagles on the shoes seemed to come to life. They spread their wings and flew. Before Xiao Chen could react, he felt a strong force lifting him. An immense force developed Xiao Chen as he rushed forward. He looked like an out-of-control train crashing towards the huge stone ahead. Bang! 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 Xiao Chen crushed the boulder into dust. Then he destroyed another, and another. Eventually, all of the boulders in his way for 500 meters shattered into sand. The sudden change did not even allow Xiao Chen to put up a protective essence shield. He simply crashed directly into anything and everything in his way. This all happened in the time for a spark to fly. From the time Xiao Chen infused essence into the blood flame eagle pattern to when he crashed through 500 meters of huge stones, it did not even take half the time needed to blink. Xiao Chen's face had become swollen as he lay on the ground miserably. He felt like his entire skeleton had dislocated. He was in incredible pain and could not help but moan softly. The pain was simply too great. It felt like an ordinary person used his head to smash into a wall. Furthermore, Xiao Chen had not crashed into walls, but massive rocks the size of small mountains, much harder than walls. Furthermore, Xiao Chen had not crashed into those boulders passively, but at high speeds. For those huge stones to be crushed into dust, it would be easy to imagine how fast he had traveled. Even though Xiao Chen had cultivated the dragon tendon tiger bone and had not received any real damage, the pain did not feel any less. Xiao Chen lay on the ground for half an hour before he caught his breath. Although he felt depressed, he also felt joy. Unexpectedly, the blood flame shoes hide a secret technique. It can help me break through the limit of Mach 4 in an instant. Although it is only effective for 500 meters, it can give an opponent a shocking surprise in the middle of a fight. Unfortunately, the problem was that it exhausted too much essence. Just executing it once exhausted 1/4 of Xiao Chen's essence. Never mind, this is sufficient. I have earned a lot already. It looks like the blood flame shoes are a peak medial grade secret treasure. Xiao Chen revealed a faint smile on his bruised face before withdrawing it. Now, how do I leave this strange place? Is it really like that blue-robed blood demon had said? Do I really have to wait 100 years before I can escape? That will be very problematic. Humans do not live as long as demons. White-robed brat, are you here? If you are, say something and make it loud. As Xiao Chen pondered, a vigorous voice rang throughout the stone forest. An uncertain expression flashed on his face. Why had Bai Lixi come here? If you are not here, say something. Damn it. Did he really die? Bai Lixi's rough voice rang out once again. Xiao Chen hesitated for a while before replying loudly. Right after Xiao Chen spoke, he did not hear any reply from Bai Lixi. As Xiao Chen felt suspicious, a huge noise suddenly came from above him. A black dot appeared in the air and fell quickly. The black dot grew larger in Xiao Chen's view. Soon, he could make out the image of Bai Lixi's huge axe. It broke through the spatial barrier and chopped down. It moved as fast as lightning. Xiao Chen quickly dodged. Bang! The huge axe landed where he had rested, creating a long crack in the ground. Xiao Chen took in a deep breath of cold air. If this had fallen on his head, he would be severely injured, if not dead. Anger flashed in his eyes. Was Bai Lixi trying to kill him? Brat. Don't overthink this. Quickly jump onto the axe, I'll take you out. Bai Lixi's anxious voice rang out. Xiao Chen thought quickly and made a decision. He jumped on. Shoo! The huge axe rose from the ground and flew up, carrying Xiao Chen as it rose into the sky. Under Bai Lixi's control, the axe flew out while carrying Xiao Chen. After Xiao Chen exited the stone forest, he jumped off the axe. Bai Lixi stretched his hand out, and the massive weapon returned to him. When Bai Lixi saw Xiao Chen's appearance, he immediately laughed and said, Brat. What happened to you? Did you smash your face into a wall? Xiao Chen felt embarrassed. Bai Lixi had guessed the truth. However, even if he were beaten to death, Xiao Chen would not admit to it. Didn't you go chasing after those half-step martial monarchs? Why did you come here? Xiao Chen changed the topic. Bai Lixi was somewhat embarrassed as he said, I'm sorry, I did actually cheat you. Many people know about the medial grade secret treasure in the stone forest. However, aside from some newcomers, no one dares to barge in. You probably can figure out why. Xiao Chen revealed an enlightened expression. Actually, He had reached this conclusion long ago. He said indifferently, "I know what you mean, you don't have to say more. Since you obtained the firmament body tempering art and I obtained the medial grade secret treasure, let's consider it even. After all, you pulled me out, so I will not seek trouble for you." When Bai Lixi heard this, he quickly said, "White-robed brat, you misunderstood this old man. Although I was planning to cheat you with the stone forest initially, along the way, I discovered that we get along well, especially after you gave me the rest of the secret manual. At that time, I was planning to tell you the truth. However, you ran too fast. I could not even call you back. The moment I reached the forest, I rushed over here, but I ran into some trouble along the way. I did not expect to arrive late. Even so, I managed to pull you out at least." Xiao Chen remained silent. There was nothing wrong with Bai Lixi's words. He had treated Xiao Chen fairly. Furthermore, Xiao Chen was not a narrow-minded person. Thinking about it, he had cheated Bai Lixi quite a bit. It was reasonable that Bai Lixi would do this. Regardless of the situation, Bai Lixi had pulled Xiao Chen out. Thinking of this, Xiao Chen said, "Very well, I'll believe you once. Tell me about the situation inside the stone forest behind us. How is it strange?" Seeing that Xiao Chen did not blame him, Bai Lixi felt like a load had been lifted. He replied, "I don't really know either. Anyway, it is very sinister. Once, a half-step martial monarch entered but could not escape. In the end, 2 demons killed him. You are pretty capable of killing those demons," Bai Lixi said, somewhat astonished. He paused for a moment before taking out a small book. He said, "This is for you." Xiao Chen received it and asked, "What is this?" Bai Lixi laughed, "Naturally, it is something good. These are the insights I have gained over my several decades of cultivating the physical body. Take a look. Not that I am praising myself, but I have traveled all over the continent and still have not seen anyone who has a stronger physical body than mine." Bai Lixi's cultivation insights, this was really valuable. He clearly had great talent. Otherwise, he could not have practiced the heaven-ranked cultivation technique to the 4th layer in 2 months. Xiao Chen casually flipped through the small book. Then, he stored it in his universe ring. "Thank you. Coincidentally, I have hit a bottleneck in cultivating my physical body." Bai Lixi waved it off and said, "No need to thank me. Take it as my apologies for my previous behavior. I will leave first. This time, that group has really stirred up a hornet's nest." About 10 kilometers in the distance, Xiao Chen felt a strong aura equivalent to a martial monarch. The aura did not show any signs of diminishing. Instead, it became more berserk. The aura came from where Bai Lixi talked about. 10-odd half-step martial monarchs, peak martial king experts, fought against one martial monarch-leveled blood demon. A fight of this intensity would not resolve in a short time. It could even last 1 or 2 days. It was not strange that the results were not out yet. As Xiao Chen watched Bai Lixi leave, Xiao Chen contemplated taking a look. Xiao Chen did not fear anyone under half-step martial monarch. However, if he ran into a half-step martial monarch, he did not stand any chance at victory. Xiao Chen's previous odds of fleeing had not exceeded 10%. Hence, Xiao Chen decisively chose not to take part in the excitement. However, now that Xiao Chen had the blood flame shoes, he became 50% confident of fleeing unscathed from a half-step martial monarch. He might be able to join in the excitement now. That blood demon was likely a peak high-rank blood demon. Not only would there be an extremely valuable demon core, but there would also be some worthwhile secret treasures. Xiao Chen's gaze turned resolute. He grabbed his saber hilt with his right hand and said softly, "I should prepare. Actually, there is still a big chance for me." Snatching something from the hands of half-step martial monarch was akin to snatching food from the tiger's mouth. Merely relying on one pair of blood flame shoes would not be sufficient. Xiao Chen thought for a while and took out a 1-meter-long tree branch. It was as thick as the width of a finger, and its spiritual energy felt overwhelming. It was the Wudong tree branch Xiao Chen had obtained on the heaven-ascending platform, the Wudong tree that the phoenix had perched on. The Wudong tree was said to be second only to the 3 great divine spiritual trees. Just one branch naturally contained an overwhelming spiritual energy. It was truly a spiritual wood. This was perfect material for the life bestowal spell. Xiao Chen used a knife to cut it into half before putting back half in the universe ring. Then, he gave some thought to what he would carve. The strongest people Xiao Chen had ever met were the Supreme Elder of the Supreme Sky Sect and Xiao Bai's father. However, Xiao Chen hesitated to carve a martial sage for the life bestowal spell. A martial sage held tremendous power. Xiao Chen feared that the Wudong spiritual wood could not handle it. Furthermore, if he were not able to reflect their charms in his carving, their strength would be greatly weakened. Secondly, martial sages had already plundered some of the heavenly Taos. He feared that if he used sculptures of these people, it would attract their attention. That could be dangerous. I should still use Ying Yu. Ying Yu is currently a half-step martial monarch as well. I am familiar with carving her and can grasp her charms. Xiao Chen made up his mind and cut off a quarter from that half-meter-long spiritual wood. Then, he used his carving knife to create Ying Yu's figure. Shua. Shua. Wooden shavings fell slowly. After an hour, a sculpture of Ying Yu wearing battle armor appeared. The sculpture depicted Ying Yu's beautiful face, revealing a faint smile. She held a spear in her hands, which looked like it was ready to fly out at any moment. Xiao Chen would use this sculpture in combat. Naturally, he could not handle it as roughly as those one-time used sculptures. Xiao Chen spent 10 more minutes processing it further before he was thoroughly satisfied. Xiao Chen dropped his blood onto the sculpture, completing this sculpture for the life bestowal spell perfectly. The remaining spiritual wood could be used to carve another 3 sculptures. Xiao Chen thought for a while and decided to carve his own likeness. After that, he dripped blood each. These took another 2 hours to complete. Although Xiao Chen had used a lot of time, he felt that it was worth it. He had never fought a half-step martial monarch before. One could never underestimate their enemies, it would behoove him to prepare thoroughly. Although Xiao Chen had trump cards he could use to deal with half-step martial monarchs, they were only good for one use. It was best not to rely on them. Boom. 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 Loud sounds came from the distance again. The sound of wind followed. The wind seemed to contain the shrieks of resentful spirits. It sounded extremely horrifying. It's time to move. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and headed for the center of that battlefield, traveling swiftly. In an instant, Xiao Chen moved like a roaming dragon. From a distance, he looked like an azure dragon, leaping across the ground. As Xiao Chen neared the battlefield, the overwhelming baleful aura from the high-rank blood demon became clearer. He also felt a mild pressure on his mind. Xiao Chen stopped about 2,000 meters from the center of the battlefield. Countless cultivators had already arrived long ago. Xiao Chen moved quietly, hiding himself in an inconspicuous corner. Who? Dust filled the area ahead. Strong winds blew, and sand flew everywhere. The area looked blurry. No one could clearly see the situation inside. They could only see some faint figures giving off light, moving up and down in the sky. A horrifying energy came from within. Ferocious shouts resounded endlessly from within. Occasionally, fire, ice, rain, and even lightning appeared. The 10-odd half-step martial monarchs had comprehended various states and executed them to their limits. After fighting for such a long time, someone has to have died already. I seem to have heard the miserable cry of a human earlier. Indeed, I heard it as well. The opponent is a peak high-rank blood demon. Normally, they only appeared in the core region. It's odd that it appeared in the inner area. A peak high-rank blood demon is about as strong as an inferior grade martial monarch. These people are only half-step martial monarchs. There is a great difference in strength. There will certainly be injuries. Some of the stronger and bolder people wanted to go in and join the excitement. If they were lucky, they might be able to snatch the body of a half-step martial monarch. Any losses they suffered would be worth the prize. Bang! 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 This group had only walked forward 100 meters, and miserable cries rang out. They were immediately thrown back. When they moved forward, they were in perfect states. Now, nothing was the same. Wounds covered some. Others had been struck by lightning, and only piles of ash remained. Some of them had their upper bodies frozen, and their lower bodies burned to a crisp. Clearly, they suffered from the attacks of ice and fire. Some were petrified, transforming into stone. When they fell to the ground, they shattered into pieces. The surrounding cultivators were all shocked. Although they had known that these people would not have a good ending, they had not expected such a miserable conclusion. Xiao Chen also revealed a shocked expression. Earlier, he used his spiritual sense to examine the situation inside clearly. These cultivators had been superior grade martial kings. When they moved forward by 100 meters, the half-step martial monarchs inside noticed them immediately. The 10-odd half-step martial monarchs had a tacit understanding. Half worked to hold back the blood demon's attacks, while the remaining launched all sorts of killing moves. These superior grade martial kings had no means to resist. They were immediately blasted back, and the result was clear for all to see. It looked like these half-step martial monarchs were pretty cunning. They did not mind people involving themselves with their prey. However, if people wanted to take advantage of the situation, they would show no mercy. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense had caught sight of the corpse of a half-step martial monarch. It looked like the miserable cry that those people spoke of was real. Xiao Chen glanced up. The number of cultivators standing in the air numbered over 100. These people all maintained calm gazes and withdrawn auras. They stayed still as they watched the situation on the battlefield. It seemed as if the dust that filled the air could not obstruct their vision. Martial kings could fly in the air. However, if they wanted to stay in the air for a long time, they would exhaust a significant amount of essence. Obviously, the cultivators in mid-air had higher cultivations than the ones on the ground. Obviously, once the battle ended, those rushing down from the sky would be faster than those on the ground. The martial kings on the ground wanted to hover in the air as well. However, they could not keep up with the exhaustion of essence. This resulted from their difference in strength. Xiao Chen continued to look around, looking for Bai Lixi. Eventually, he found the robust cultivator about 1,000 meters northeast. Several cultivators with strong auras stood around Bai Lixi. He spoke to these people in whispers. It looked like he had found his companions and would take action with them. Xiao Chen retracted his gaze and casually found a stone from which to carve an eagle. Then he spoke softly, executing the life bestowal spell. Who? An eagle appeared below Xiao Chen, slowly carrying him into the sky. Undoubtedly, the sky was a better place to make a move from. When the few cultivators beside him heard the activity, they inspected Xiao Chen's cultivation. They could not help but laugh. This brat overestimates himself. It is not that easy to stay in the air. If we could go up, we would have done so long ago. He is truly ignorant. He thought that, by riding on something, others could not touch him. Just watch the excitement. After all, it will still take some time for the battle to end. Just enjoy the show. Mockery appeared on their faces as these cultivators watched Xiao Chen fly higher. Anticipation filled their gazes. Some people even had a ferocious gleam in their eyes. They hoped that Xiao Chen would be severely injured so they could take advantage of him. When Xiao Chen heard this, he was somewhat astonished. It looked like the situation was not as he had expected. Aside from essence exhaustion, the other cultivators had other reasons for not hovering in the air. Never mind. I'll deal with the situation as it unfolds. Xiao Chen did not fear anyone under half-step martial monarch. Even if he could not match up to some peak martial kings, he could easily flee. Brat, is this somewhere you can be? Scram. Xiao Chen had just stopped as a bald cultivator flew over. When the other cultivators in the air heard the bald cultivator, they all looked over. Interest colored their expressions. Ha. 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 This brat is dead for sure. Of all the places to be, he chose Shi Feng's territory. That fellow is famous for his violence. He must be new. Shi Feng is pretty famous in the south side of the ancient desolate land. When they cultivators on the ground saw Xiao Chen fly to the bald cultivator's side, they all laughed. As Xiao Chen stood on the eagle, he held the lunar shadow saber. He gazed calmly at the bald cultivator in front of him. The sky was spacious. However, cultivators had already occupied the good vantage points. If Xiao Chen wanted to find a good spot, he had to knock someone down. At the same time, he had to demonstrate his strength to deter others from launching any attacks. The person before him not only had a good position, but Xiao Chen also considered him to be the best candidate for establishing his might. The bald cultivator, Shi Feng, had a ferocious appearance. He held a large saber in his hand and emitted killing qi from his whole body. As Xiao Chen remained silent, the murderous intent in Shi Feng's eyes grew more intense. He said coldly, "I will say it again, this is my territory. Scram now." When the other peak superior grade martial kings in the air felt Shi Feng's killing qi, they all thought, this brat on the eagle is going to die. Several hundred cultivators came to this area. However, only 100 qualified to occupy the airspace. For Shi Feng to be one of them, his strength was clearly not that of a regular superior grade martial king. It would be too simple for Shi Feng to deal with an inferior grade martial king. Shi Feng's expression turned sullen as his killing qi seemed to solidify and spread through his surroundings. A murderous intent appeared in his eyes as he glowered Xiao Chen. "Since you did not treasure the chance I gave you, die." When Shi Feng saw that Xiao Chen had no intentions to retreat, he roared ferociously. He pushed off the air, and his figure flashed, leaving after images. Berserk Dragon burst. A flame lit up on Shi Feng's saber and formed a blue dragon. The dragon spiraled around the saber quickly as it roared. Unexpectedly, a trace of dragon's might appeared. What a strong berserk dragon burst! Shi Feng's comprehension of the state of fire has deepened. Now, he can infuse the dragon might in his body into his saber technique. This move's might can compare to a peak earth-ranked martial technique. There is no way that white-robed brat can block it. We should move quickly and prepare to grab his corpse. The alert cultivators leapt behind Xiao Chen and Shi Feng. No one dared lag behind. Dragon might, Xiao Chen thought to himself. It was indeed as Xiao Chen had guessed. The martial technique of this Shi Feng relied on dragon might. This made things easy. If Xiao Chen had picked another peak superior grade martial king, he might have had to expend a lot of effort and not dealt with his opponent within a short period. However, as for this Shi Feng, the Azure Dragon was an ancient holy beast. It was the ancestor of all dragons. Using dragon might before Xiao Chen was like seeking death. Xiao Chen grasped the lunar shadow saber with his left hand and stood calmly on the eagle. Just as the berserk dragon burst surged towards him, he sent his right hand forward and spread his fingers to form an open palm. With a thought, the Azure Dragon tattoo on his right arm came to life. It slowly crawled across his skin. Boom! The berserk flaming blue dragon started shaking intensely. The entire saber trembled. Shi Feng felt that the dragon might in his body seemed to have sensed something terrifying. It trashed in his body, and no matter what he did, he could not calm it. Xiao Chen shouted a war cry and thrust his palm forward. The moving azure dragon on his arm emitted a loud dragon roar. Bang! Bang! Two crunching sounds resounded. The flaming blue dragon spiraling around the saber suddenly shattered. The saber also shattered and fell to the ground. Shi Feng vomited a mouthful of blood. His body was like a kite with a broken string, falling to the ground. Shi Feng became frighteningly pale. The dragon might he had painstakingly cultivated for decades unexpectedly scattered in a moment. Without a year or two, it would not recover back to its original state. Shi Feng crawled up from the ground. He revealed an incredulous expression. He gazed at Xiao Chen with eyes full of fear. Then, without a word, he fled. Shi Feng moved very fast. In the blink of an eye, he vanished from sight. Within the battlefield, strong winds still blew wildly, and dust filled the air. Cracks of thunder and the horrifying energy never ceased for an instant. However, all of the cultivators 2,000 meters outside the battlefield stared, their jaws hanging open. They were speechless, the place fell utterly silent. How can this be? This white-robed brat easily broke a peak Earth-ranked martial technique with one palm strike. Furthermore, that palm strike did not seem to contain any might. This white-robed brat simply scared away a peak superior grade martial king with a gentle palm strike. How strong is he exactly? However, the crux of the problem was that, although Xiao Chen's aura seemed thick, he was indeed only an inferior grade martial king. Even if Xiao Chen had cultivated a peak cultivation technique and obtained nourishment from all sorts of natural treasures, he should only be able to reach a draw with Shi Feng. It seemed impossible for him to scare his opponent away with one palm strike. Doubts appeared in everybody's minds. They could not understand what had happened. The people on the ground waiting for entertainment were even more horror-stricken. If even Shi Feng were not a match for Xiao Chen, they certainly would not come close. Xiao Chen withdrew his palm and glanced at the ground, at the cultivators waiting to grab his corpse. He smiled faintly and sent out a palm strike. Retreat. A strong wind blew, and 8 peak medial-grade martial kings were startled as they scattered and fled. What a joke, this palm strike could easily defeat Shi Feng. How could they dare face it head-on? However, after a while, the horrifying energy they expected did not arrive. Nothing had happened. Xiao Chen withdrew his right hand, and the purple thunder true fire in his eyes started to gather. He looked at the people on the ground and smiled. Sorry, that was just a joke. Unexpectedly, the people who came for my corpse are so cowardly. So, it had only been a joke. The 8 people on the ground sighed in relief. Although they were angry in their hearts, they did not dare behave as unbridled as before. Hu Kai. Just at this moment, Xiao Chen suddenly made a move. A purple arrow flew from Xiao Chen's right eye. The hair of a medial-grade martial king ignited as a result. Hot. Hot. My hair. My hair. That person was startled and started to hit his head frantically, trying to extinguish the flames. However, the other 7 took a deep breath of cold air, afraid. The hair and the forehead were only a small distance apart. Such a feeling did not need an explanation. When they looked at the white-robed youth on the eagle again, they saw that he had a calm expression as he smiled faintly. Clearly, he seemed very casual about it, very relaxed. The 7 said nothing, fleeing quickly. If this person were upset, the next target of those strange purple flames would not be hair. When they realized that they had mocked Xiao Chen and even had vicious intentions of launching attacks after he was injured, they did not dare remain. After this move, many cultivators clearly saw Xiao Chen fire an extremely fast flame arrow. It seemed completely different from that strange palm strike from earlier. They could feel his strength. This youth did indeed qualify to stand in the air. Everyone withdrew their gazes and continued to watch the center of the battlefield. However, they all listed Xiao Chen as someone very dangerous. Bai Lixi smiled faintly and said, "This brat is always surprising people." "Bai Lixi, do you know that youth?" Bai Lixi's companion beside him asked. Bai Lixi's expression did not change as he nodded gently, "I know him. He is the white-robed bladesman. We can stop staring at the battlefield. As long as we follow this brat, I can guarantee there to be no danger. We can even gain some small benefits." "Really?" Bai Lixi laughed and said, "It is up to you whether you believe me or not. I will only say one thing. The biggest winner on Chinran Island was this brat. Even the bloody bladesman, the slaughterer of thousands, and the others had not gained as much as him. They could not even compare to his scraps." The few people behind Bai Lixi whispered to each other. Their expressions displayed their doubt of Bai Lixi's words. They obviously did not believe him. However, Bai Lixi merely laughed and ignored these people. Regardless what others thought, he had made up his mind. The battle seemed incredibly intense already. The strong winds blowing had not ceased in the least. Everyone anxiously waited for the moment the battle ended. Ah! Just at this moment, another sharp, miserable cry came from the battlefield. Everyone's chest turned cold. Another half-step martial monarch had just died. Indeed, a peak high-rank blood demon has horrifying strength. Half-step martial monarchs who usually move around with ease have suffered 2 fatalities today. These half-step martial monarchs are truly fearless. They should have fled after they met a peak high-rank blood demon. If they die, it would be very unfortunate. What do you know? Half-step martial monarchs are not truly martial monarchs. For them to advance to martial monarch, aside from clearing all sorts of requirements and needing sufficient essence, the most important thing is to open the sea of consciousness, increasing the strength of their mental energy. If their mental energy is not strong enough, they can never break through the barrier to martial monarch. Out of this group, several of them are approaching the limits of their lifespan. If they do not stake their all on this, they will not have any more opportunities. With the death of another half-step martial monarch, the crowd started discussing again after a moment of silence. Secret manuals. The temperamental energy are the rarest secret manuals on the continent. A peak high-rank blood demon normally only appears in the core region of the demon battlefield. That is where even a martial monarch would not dare tread casually. Now that they found a peak high-rank blood demon in the inner region, how could they give it up? When the cultivator who voiced his doubts earlier heard this, he finally understood why this group of half-step martial monarchs risked their lives like this. When Xiao Chen heard this, he pondered on it. They were reaching their limits. If they did not risk their all, they would not have any more chances. Hence, even though they know the danger, even if they have to face this group of cultivators with malicious intentions after vanquishing the blood demon, this group of half-step martial monarchs had no other choice. They could only stake their all on this. As time slowly passed, another 3 half-step martial monarchs died. The group of 18 had now reduced to 13. After fighting for so long, the aura of the peak high-rank blood demon had weakened significantly. His initial berserk and overwhelming aura, which had been felt from 10 kilometers away, could no longer cause any pressure to the people 2,000 meters away. As the sun set in the west, the blood demon approached his limits. After all, a peak high-rank blood demon could not defeat a group of close to 20 half-step martial monarchs. In the center of the battlefield, a black-robed old man with an overwhelming aura and a sword in his hand said with a grave expression, "We are almost there. We few will stop him from self-detonating. Old Zhe, Old Huang, Old Chong, and Old Mu, we will leave the incoming cultivators to you." After a pause, the old man continued, I will hold on to the demon core first. After everything is over, we will split it evenly. Does anyone have any issues with this plan? Old Chin, rest assured. Everyone trusts the credibility of the Holy Fire Manor, the 6 people he had named replied. They obviously trusted this old man without question. Actually, this group of people had come to the demon battlefield before. Old Chin had been the organizer every time they did so. This person's credibility, plus the power behind him, was the reason they would not squabble internally and fight with each other. Everyone trusted him. A few people surrounded the black-clothed blood demon. He emitted black smoke, and the baleful aura in his eyes felt overwhelming. He roared ferociously. He had wanted to use a secret technique to flee several times, but the cultivators had blocked his path. Wounds of varied sizes that covered the blood demon quickly healed. However, the healing speed was far slower than the rate at which he collected new injuries. Numerous killing moves with overwhelming force struck the blood demon. His life force diminished rapidly. He was approaching his limits. I'm not resigned to this. After 1,000 years, I finally broke through. Yet, you despicable group of humans caused my 1,000 years of effort to go to waste. If I have to die, then everyone will die with me. The black-clothed blood demon seemed to turn mad as he spoke with a maniacal expression. His skin started to swell quickly. Old Chin's expression remained unchanged. His deep eyes maintained their calm. He said, very good. He is going to self-detonate. Take action now. Boom. 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 Suddenly a strong energy burst forth from the middle of the battlefield. It caused the red clouds above to tremble and turn into a scarlet whirlpool of clouds. The whirlpool formed hurricanes. Many people could not open their eyes due to the wind. An overwhelming, baleful aura hid in the wind. It felt like a malicious spirit moving through the crowd. Those with weak willpower fell instantly. That blood demon is about to self-detonate. When the crowd felt that surging energy, they became very excited. This fight had finally reached its end. Regardless of the results, the group of half-step martial monarchs was bound to be exhausted. At that time, they could not hold back so many people attacking together. Kai. However, just as that energy had almost reached its peak, 10 resplendent lights of various colors scattered the whirlpool in the sky. It vanished without a trace. The battle ended. The strong wind that had blown for so long finally came to a stop. The dust settled. Xiao Chen muttered to himself, they managed to stop him from self-detonating. It looks like this group of half-step martial monarchs was quite prepared. Boom. The moment the dust settled, a dazzling multicolored light fired out from the blood demon. All sorts of secret treasures flew into the air. At a rough count, there were at least 100 secret treasures. Of which, 2 or 3 were the rarely seen peak medial grade secret treasures. Only humans could use secret treasures. Demons collected secret treasures so they could attract the attention of humans and kill them while they were distracted. In order to attract more humans and eat their hearts to improve their strength, demons had to collect many secret treasures. The stronger blood demons had many horrifying secret treasures. They are secret treasures. He was worthy of being a peak high-rank blood demon. He had unexpectedly collected so many secret treasures. Ha! Ha! We have not waited here in vain. With so many secret treasures, it's all worth it now. Hurry up. The blood demon is already dead. If we don't advance now, there will be no more chances. Naturally, the cultivators who had waited for so long would not want to miss this chance. If they allowed that group of half-step martial monarchs to react, it would be too late. Shoo! 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 Countless figures rushed towards the center of the battlefield. All of the cultivators looked extremely excited, as though they had already obtained the secret treasures. The peak superior grade martial kings in the air rushed to the ground. Using their advantageous position, they led the pack. Xiao Chen stood quietly on the eagle. He maintained a calm expression. He did not rush forward with the others. The atmosphere of the crowd had already influenced Bai Lixi. However, just before he rushed forward, he saw Xiao Chen, unmoving. So, he stopped as well. Bai Lixi, go quickly. If we are any slower, we will not snatch anything. Indeed, there may be many secret treasures, but there are more cultivators than secret treasures. If we are late, we will not even get the lousiest secret treasure. Bai Lixi's gaze was resolute as he said, no need. You can go first. Be careful. Those half-step martial monarchs are not easy to deal with. Bai Lixi, you are too cowardly. Half-step martial monarchs are scary. However, how could half-step martial monarchs who has exhausted their strength fighting the whole day hold back so many people? Ha. Ha. In that case, we will go first. You can wait here alone. When you don't get anything, don't be jealous. A few people laughed and flew forward. They all did not take Bai Lixi's words to heart. Bai Lixi also laughed bitterly. He did not say anything. Anyway, he trusted his instincts. Since Xiao Chen had not moved, he definitely had his reasons. Su. 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 When the crowd arrived 1,000 meters away from the center, suddenly, 6 old men appeared. They wore blank expressions as their clothes fluttered without any wind. Their auras were frighteningly powerful. They did not feel like cultivators who had fought for the whole day. It seemed like they had saved their strength and had not exhausted themselves at all. When their auras combined, it felt like a tall mountain pressing on the advancing cultivators, making it difficult to breathe. No good. They are peak half-step martial monarchs in their optimal states. When they felt the auras of the 6, the peak superior grade martial kings did not hesitate to flee. Strong wind, lightning, frost, flames, earth wall, and white mist, 6 different attributed states from the 6 half-step martial monarchs spread throughout the surroundings. In an instant, the storm of energy that had stopped stirred up once again. All kinds of energy intertwined. Even the air became a sharp, killing weapon as it exploded out continuously. Hundreds of cultivators could not retreat in time, and the berserk energy blasted them back and ripped them to shreds. The few cultivators who managed to escape were severely injured. Their flesh was torn apart as they fell to the ground. Only a handful of cultivators with defensive peak inferior grade secret treasures had barely escaped unscathed. However, the secret treasures shattered and became useless. Because Bai Lixi's companions had advanced a moment later, they had not noticed the situation ahead. By the time they reached the front line, they coincidentally ran into the first wave, the strongest attacks. They did not even have the chance to flee. They were blasted apart, left without a complete corpse. Half-step martial monarchs. What was a half-step martial monarch? They were cultivators who had cultivated for a long time as martial kings. Their states and essence had reached the very summit of what martial kings could achieve. With sufficient mental energy, one could open their sea of consciousness and step into the martial monarch realm. They would become one of the few experts on the continent. Half-step martial monarchs had raised their states and cultivation to the limits already. With a martial monarch and above coming out, they were unrivaled. Killing medial grade martial kings or superior grade martial kings felt as easy as killing dogs to half-step martial kings. The only thing that might cause them trouble was the peak superior grade martial kings in the air. As for the others, it was no longer a problem of quantity but quality. With their strength, no matter how many attacked, it would not make a difference. Boom. 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 The 6 elders stepped forward another 100 meters and made another move. With the influence of their various peak states, the normally ordinary martial techniques became killing moves. Many cultivators lost their lives on the spot. The old man in the middle stopped and looked at the peak superior grade martial kings with their auras raised to their limits hovering in the air. He frowned slightly and muttered, "Everyone, just go back to where you came from. These are not yours. Don't try to reap without sowing. Otherwise, well, I don't have to tell you what the consequences will be." The 100 peak martial kings stayed in the air with expressionless faces as they watched the secret treasures flying everywhere. Clearly, they did not wish to leave. One of them said coldly, unexpectedly, "There are still the 6 of you who have not made a move yet. No wonder a newly advanced peak high-rank blood demon could kill 3 of you. However, the 6 of you will not be sufficient to monopolize these secret treasures. In the worst case, both the fish dies and the net breaks, no one will get anything." The baleful aura of a peak high-rank blood demon's demon core is overwhelming. Without strong willpower, it will be difficult to extract. If you don't let us get the secret treasure, we won't let you get the demon core. That's right, you can take the demon core and leave. If you want to stop us from getting the secret treasures, that is impossible. We will not return empty-handed. The 100 peak superior grade martial king stood in the air, their auras were withdrawn as they retorted. For a moment, both sides entered a stalemate. If no one gave way, an even more intense fight would begin. The medial grade martial kings and ordinary superior grade martial kings were already afraid. They had retreated to 2,000 meters from the half-step martial monarchs. When these martial kings saw the 100 peak superior grade martial kings holding their ground, they all slowly grew excited. As they watched the secret treasures flying around, desire appeared in their eyes. When Bai Lixi saw the situation before him, he heaved a sigh of relief. He focused on cultivating the physical body. Before great perfection, he could not compete with other cultivators in speed. If Bai Lixi rushed in, even if he could retreat, he could be covered in injuries. Xiao Chen continued watching the secret treasures flying through the air. He focused on the 3 medial grade secret treasures. The other inferior grade secret treasures could not catch his eye. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense continued to observe that group of people. When Old Qin spoke to the 6, Xiao Chen had immediately checked on the conditions of these 6 people. These 6 people had not exhausted themselves at all. Their purpose was to prevent the current situation. The person called Old Qin had made a decisive move. Even if someone died, Old Qin wanted to preserve the strength of these 6. Thinking about it, the power behind him had to be immense. Otherwise, he would not have suppressed these 6 and would get into trouble. Xiao Chen looked at the 3 medial grade secret treasures in the air. Then, he looked at the nervous group of people. After that, he took out a sculpture from the universe ring. He seemed to have already formulated a plan. There was a deep red demon core in the middle of the blood demon's corpse. It gave off a strange red light, bathing the surrounding in scarlet. At the same time, it contested an indistinct, formless barrier. 100 meters away from the demon core, Old Qin and the others had varying numbers of bleeding wounds. However, despite their tired faces, they all had blazing eyes, they looked excited. Even so, they still maintained their rationality. They did not allow their desires go to their head. One of them seemed worried as he asked, "Old Qin, you have exhausted most of your essence, and you are injured. Can you the attacks of the baleful aura?" This blood demon died with a lot of resentment. "I believe that the attacks of the demonic core's aura will be stronger than a regular peak high-rank blood demon's demon core." Old Qin snorted coldly, "If you think that your mental energy is stronger than mine, you can try. You don't have to speak such nonsense with me." When the others heard this, they quickly said, "Old Qin, that's not what we meant. Naturally, your mental energy is the strongest amongst us. We are just a little worried for you." When Old Qin heard this, he smiled coldly. This old man's mental energy is only a step shy of opening the sea of consciousness. After spending some effort, I should still be able to accomplish this. As Old Chin was about to step into the red light, he heard the exchange between the group of peak superior grade Martial King and Old Jay. His expression became malevolent as he said, "Tell Old Jay just to grab the 3 medial grade secret treasures. Let them have the rest. After we settle this, we will make them pay 100-fold. We will allow them some benefits for now." After Old Chin spoke, he turned around without looking back and stepped into the red light. The moment he stepped in, countless illusions appeared before him. All sorts of horrifying scenes appeared before Old Chin. It was difficult for him to differentiate illusion from reality. He felt as if he had descended into hell, and a malicious spirit loomed, waiting to swallow him. Old Chin maintained his calm, his eyes appeared peaceful. He sharpened his mental energy into a blade and sliced through the illusions. However, that baleful aura was challenging to deal with. Old Chin's mental energy could not break through it completely. Resentful spirits, malevolent spirits, and vengeful spirits continued to pour out relentlessly. It was just 100 meters away, but every step felt arduous. Sweat poured from his forehead. He was obviously struggling. The 100-peak superior grade Martial Kings in the sky stared at the 6 old men on the ground with cold expressions. Their auras were withdrawn as they grasped their weapons tightly, preventing these 6 from attacking. Regardless of the situation, their opponents were half-step martial monarchs. If they fought any of the old men one-on-one, they would not even last 100 moves, they would even find it difficult to flee unscathed. The only thing they could rely on was their advantage of numbers. As for the cultivators scattered on the ground, they could not match up to the half-step martial monarchs. They did not even qualify to speak of conditions. In fact, these people had not expected 6 half-step martial monarchs who had not exhausted themselves at all. Otherwise, they would not have rushed forward so recklessly. Hurry up and make a decision. Give us the secret treasures, and the demon core is yours. Stop trying to buy time, one of the half-step martial monarchs in the air said impatiently. He was obviously uneasy. Once the half-step martial monarchs obtained the peak superior grade demon core, they no longer had anything to fear from the peak superior grade martial kings. Make your decision quickly. Stop dawdling. Stop dragging this out. Worst case scenario, we both lose out. No one will gain anything, and you all can forget about advancing to martial monarch in this lifetime. The patience of the peak superior grade martial kings in the air slowly diminished. If they continued to wait, they would not obtain anything. Scram quickly. If you take another step forward, we will kill you without hesitation. The 6 old men wore grave expressions. They did not have any intentions of giving in to these threats. More than 100 secret treasure would be a large fortune wherever they went. How could they just give it away? Furthermore, there were 3 medial grade secret treasures. Even for half-step martial monarchs, not all of them had medial grade secret treasures. It was all the more reason they could not give those up. The atmosphere became very volatile. The air seemed to thicken. It felt like it would explode the moment anyone made a move. Just at this moment, an old man came flying over. He gently whispered something into Old Ji's ear. Old Ji's expression changed slightly. After he muttered to himself for a moment, he spoke to the crowd in the air. Aside from the 3 medial grade secret treasures, the rest is yours. You are too naive. A medial grade secret treasure is the equivalent of several dozen inferior grade secret treasures. Do you think we are fools? You still intend to monopolize all the benefits. Do you think we are monkeys? The crowd was not satisfied. A few more short-tempered cultivators wanted to make a move. Old Jay said coldly, "What are you thinking of doing? Don't be reckless." Kai. Kai. Just at this moment, the cry of an eagle suddenly came from the air. The cry was deafening, like it was meant to attract everyone's attention. All of the cultivators, including the 7 half-step martial monarchs, could not help but look to the sky. They only saw an eagle spreading its wings and casting down a huge shadow. It flew rapidly towards the scattered secret treasures in the air. It's that white-robed brat. He is snatching the secret treasures. Is he crazy? The people below exclaimed. Old Ge's expression changed greatly. He emitted killing chi from his entire body. The surrounding air moved and created a tornado as he said coldly, "You're seeking death." Old J waved his hands and fired an extremely dense energy. Boom. Boom. The remaining 6 half-step martial monarchs made a move about the same time as Old J. The torrent of sharp attacks flew towards the eagle. At the same time, the peak superior grade martial king cursed. This brat was too dishonest. He unexpectedly dared to snatch secret treasures alone before they had any chance to act. All types of sharp killing moves were launched simultaneously. They instantly turned into thousands of dense attacks, covering the sky as they surged towards the eagle. Frost, flames, saber chi, sword chi, fist wing, sword lights, there was a wide variety and not just one of each. With such an onslaught of attacks, even a half-step martial monarch could not dodge and would not dare clash head-on against this bombardment. It was like the principle of ants biting an elephant to death. Furthermore, Xiao Chen was not an elephant. Thus, in the crowd's opinion, Xiao Chen would have to be mad to do something so attention-grabbing. As for the eagle carved from stone, it instantly shattered under the countless attacks. It first shattered into fragments, then dust. Eventually, it completely vanished from this world. However, there was no one on the eagle, only 3 incredibly spiritual wooden sculptures. The instant the eagle shattered, the strong and chaotic energy tossed them high into the air. The finger-sized wooden sculptures did not seem to have any weight. The shockwave generated by the explosion tossed them several thousand meters into the sky, allowing them to evade the horrifying attacks. Is he dead yet? With so many attacks, this brat has probably been blasted till nothing is left of him. If he can survive this, I will dig out my eyes myself. Ha. Ha. You really picked a good time to say that. However, this brat is definitely dead. It looks like you can keep your eyes. This brat is crazy. He thought he could play some trick to sneak past. If we could have done so, we would have long ago. It would not be his turn to do so. This is the result of being too conceited. He died without a complete corpse. This is the reality of the situation. It looked as if fireworks filled the sky, exploding endlessly and filling the sky with resplendent light. The crowd all sighed. When all the energy scattered, and the blurry sky turned quiet again, the watching crowd saw 3 white figures moving under the scarlet clouds. Each of them headed quickly for a medial-grade secret treasure. The 3 figures all wore white robes. They were pale, delicate, and handsome. A strip of blue cloth covered their foreheads, and a saber hung from their waists. They could not be anyone other than Xiao Chen. Damn it! How can this be? Not only did he not die, but he also became 3 people. The people below were astonished. Their mouths gaped, and their eyes looked like they were about to pop out. They could not understand what had just happened. Even a martial monarch would not withstand those attacks. How could he, as an insignificant inferior grade martial king, survive that unscathed? Nothing made sense. It far surpassed everyone's imaginations. Even the cultivator who said he would dig out his own eyes had an incredulous look on his face. He muttered continuously, "How can it be? How can it be? It's a cloning technique. Chase him. We can't let him snatch the secret treasures." Seeing a white figure in the air obtain a medial-grade secret treasure, Old J became furious. He sent out a strong wind and rose into the sky. After the 3 Xiao Chens in the air had grabbed the medial-grade secret treasures, they smiled faintly. They executed the roaming dragon's 9 transformations, and the 3 figures instantly became 27 figures. Wukui transforms to Qi. The Xiao Chens brandished their sabers as the blades flickered with a dazzling purple light. Countless purple saber Qi covered the sky chaotically, moving over a large area like a torrential storm. Some of the flying secret treasurers in the air were knocked to the ground when the saber Qi struck them. Secret treasure. When the secret treasures arrived before them, all of the cultivators recovered their wits as they started reaching for the secret treasures. The scene dove into madness. The Xiao Chens formed by the wooden sculptures smiled, satisfied. Instantly, all 27 figures laughed. Bang! Bang! Old Jie swept his arm across and shattered 7 Xiao Chens in an instant. The remaining clones quickly rushed into the crowd on the ground. As for the 3 Xiao Chens holding the medial-grade secret treasures, they found 3 desolate rocks with cracks and turned back into wooden sculptures under the cover of the other clones. They carried the secret treasures into the cracks with them. The palm-sized secret treasures and the finger-sized wooden sculptures hid within the cracks in the stones. In that chaotic situation, no one would notice them. After the 3 Xiao Chens turned back into wooden sculptures, the scattered fleeing clones disappeared when they no longer had energy pouring into them. Damn it! They are clones. Where did the brat go? Several cultivators distracted by the Xiao Chen clones all cursed. Within the crowd of several hundred, occasionally, miserable cries resounded out as they fought over the secret treasures that had fallen from the sky. Even the relatively calm peak superior-grade martial kings could not hold themselves back. Xiao Chen had driven the place into pandemonium. However, the peak superior-grade martial kings could not find Xiao Chen. If they did not make any moves now, not only would they miss out on the medial-grade secret treasures, but they would also lose the inferior-grade secret treasures as well. Old Jie, what should we do? The 7 half-step martial monarchs remained in the air as they looked at each other. Old Jie became sullen. He said somewhat irritably, Old Qin himself said that we needed to obtain the 3 medial-grade secret treasures. If we cannot obtain them, we probably will not receive a share from the demon core. What do you think? Old Qin kept them in reserve. Preserving their strength was so they could resolve such a situation. However, that simple matter had been utterly ruined. When they thought that they lost all hope of getting a share of the demon core, they could not help their dismay. Don't put on that expression. Split up and search, there might still be a chance. I don't believe that this brat, an inferior-grade martial king, can run fast enough. Old Jie snorted coldly and ran south, searching. He moved with lightning speed, traveling a long distance in an instant. The others perked up and started searching with all their might. Naturally, these people would not find Xiao Chen. They looked in the wrong places. No matter how fast they were, it would be useless. The further they flew, the more off they were. Even if they really found Xiao Chen's position, they would only find 3 pieces of wood. As for the real Xiao Chen, where was he hiding? Within the boundless scarlet clouds, where even the air seemed solid, the real Xiao Chen hid quietly in a corner, drifting about in the scarlet clouds. The scarlet clouds contained all sorts of horrifying negative states. Xiao Chen had used his spiritual sense to lay an airtight shield around him, preventing these states from attacking him. The scarlet clouds were made from the corpse qi, baleful auras, the resentment of the dead, demonic qi from the demons, and killing qi. One required strong mental energy to hide within these clouds. Otherwise, even if they were half-step martial monarchs, no one would dare hide in such a place. Right below Xiao Chen was the core where the fight took place earlier. The corpse of the blood demon lay quietly as the deep red demon core gave off a dense glow. Old Qin's wrinkled face looked extremely fatigued. He walked arduously in the red light. The distance of 100 meters seemed like a rugged road to the heavens. He had barely traveled half the journey after a lot of effort. Behind the red light, 10 half-step martial monarchs formed a circle and stood guard. To them, they do not mind losing the secret treasures. However, the peak high-rank blood demon's demon core could not be lost or have anything undue happen to it. The demon core was their hope for advancing to martial monarch. If they wanted to run into another peak high-rank blood demon in the inner region of the demon battlefield again, it would be impossible. Xiao Chen looked around and saw the chaos happening 1,000 meters behind. Then, he saw 6 half-step martial monarchs searching for him. Xiao Chen revealed a faint smile. He looked at the glowing, deep red demon core below and took a deep breath. Then, his gaze slowly turned resolute. Xiao Chen knew what he was going to do next. He was going to snatch away what that they cared for the most from 10 half-step martial monarchs. Any one of the half-step martial monarchs could kill Xiao Chen easily. Even if they had exhausted most of their strength and suffered severe injuries, they still could kill him without much effort. It was just like how Xiao Chen could easily kill a regular inferior grade martial king even when severely injured. This was the difference in strength. However, at this moment, the roles were reversed. He now became the one that could be killed easily. However, this was a rare opportunity. The 10-odd half-step martial monarchs were exhausted and severely wounded. After preparing for such a long time and running into such a good opportunity, if Xiao Chen did not try, he would regret it in the future. Being servile had never been in Xiao Chen's character. When it was time to make a move, he would do so without hesitation. As long as there was more than a 50% chance of success, it would be sufficient. The 6 half-step martial monarchs who were not exhausted moved about and had already completely disappeared from Xiao Chen's vision. The moment has arrived. It's time to move. Xiao Chen thought to himself as he scattered the essence in the air. With the aid of gravity, Xiao Che fell swiftly towards the ground like a falling mountain. Kai! Kai! In an instant, Xiao Chen's falling speed reached his limits. It surpassed the barrier of martial kings, Mach 4. When the 10-odd martial monarchs standing guard saw Xiao Chen falling like a meteor, their expressions changed greatly and wanted to make a move. However, Old Qin, who had already walked a significant distance in the red light, relaxed. He smiled maliciously. No need to bother with him. Let him come down. The baleful aura will smash him to death. Reckless fool, we can use him to decrease the pressure on me. When the other martial monarchs heard that, they agreed. Given Old Qin's strength, he still found it hard to press forward. As for this brat, he fell from the sky so fast. When the aura attacked him, it would only hit him harder. Coincidentally, he could attract a significant portion of the aura away. This would allow Old Qin to finish walking the final distance easily. Xiao Chen fell like a meteor and crashed into the red light. The baleful aura immediately transformed into countless malicious spirits. A sea of corpses rushed at Xiao Chen. The mental energy in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness flowed continuously, and his eyes suddenly shone with a gold light. A deity appeared in each of his golden pupils, standing quietly in the depths of his eyes. Pu Kai. Xiao Chen glared, and the two deities moved at the same time. The overwhelming sea of corpses and malicious spirits were purified in an instant, vanishing without a trace. Bang! With the assistance of gravity, Xiao Chen landed heavily on the ground, causing it to tremble. Old Qin felt the pressure lessen as he saw Xiao Chen land beside the demon core. He revealed a mocking smile as he said, "You overestimate yourself. Mental energy attacks are more horrifying than essence attacks. How dare you, an inferior grade martial king, join the excitement?" Scram! Old Qin shouted ferociously as he prepared to kick Xiao Chen away. However, Old Qin discovered that, when he stretched his leg out halfway, Xiao Chen already started rolling on the ground. When Xiao Chen stood up again, the deep red demon core had disappeared. What's going on with his brat? Even if the baleful aura's attack had not destroyed his soul, he should be unconscious for a year and a half at least. The 10-odd half-step martial monarchs standing guard were stunned. It seemed like their brains had short-circuited. Why had the baleful aura that old Qin withstood so bitterly not affected this brat? Xiao Chen smiled faintly. In the instant these people were stunned, his figure flashed. Xiao Chen quickly swept the 3 half-step martial monarch corpses into his universe ring. Then, he activated the blood flame shoes. Xiao Chen rushed towards the group of people snatching secret treasures at Mach 3.5. From the moment Xiao Chen had fallen from the sky to him rushing out, this all happened in the time for a spark to fly. Xiao Chen did not hesitate at all as he did all this. It was as though he had practiced it in his mind countless times. He seemed familiar and confident in his movements. Stop staring into space. Quickly, chase him. That brat stole the demon core. Old Qin roared angrily. A moment after the half-step martial monarchs recovered from their shock, they reacted. They were horrified. They quickly turned and chased after Xiao Chen, sending all sorts of attacks at Xiao Chen's back. After activating the blood flame shoes, Xiao Chen's speed reached Mach 3.5. By the time the half-step martial monarchs had recovered, he had already moved 1,000 meters. He managed to dodge these attacks easily. That brat is back. He has the medial grade secret treasures. Capture him. We can't let him escape. When the originally chaotic crowd suddenly saw Xiao Chen rush through them, they set aside their squabbles and tried to surround him. Of course, medial grade secret treasures held more allure than inferior grade secret treasures. When Xiao Chen noticed these cultivators' attempts to corral him, he merely smiled. He ignored them and executed the roaming dragon's 9 transformations, soaring into the air. Boom! 10-odd sharp attacks struck Xiao Chen's previous location. A huge pit appeared on the ground as a horrifying shockwave radiated throughout the area. The cultivators who rushed forward were immediately blasted away. The slower cultivators skidded to a stop. When they looked, they saw the group of half-step martial monarchs. The half-step martial monarchs were furious, glaring at the crowd. Their auras were berserk, causing a surging tornado to rage through the area. When the crowd saw that the half-step martial monarchs preparing to make another move, they scattered and fled. Bang! 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 A torrent of attacks chased after Xiao Chen, who darted and dodged. The attacks shattered several of his clones. However, his true body managed to evade all of the attacks, not suffering any damage. As the attacks infused with the various peak states colored the area, several pits of various sizes appeared in the ground. Even the smallest pit was 100 meters in diameter. Clearly, these half-step martial monarchs were outraged. When they attacked, they held nothing back. They must really hate him. The ground seems to be missing a layer. What in the world this fellow do to them? 10 half-step martial monarchs attacking without care. Even if he had obtained the medial grade secret treasures, there is no reason to chase him with such a force. This white-robed brat is really courageous. First, he snatched 3 medial grade secret treasures from under their noses. Now, I don't know how, but he offended the other half-step martial monarchs. The crowd dodged to the side. They felt confused when they saw the countless deep pits on the ground, the lingering energy, and the livid group of half-step martial monarchs. When Xiao Chen flew past a crack in a huge rock, he waved his hand and 3 wooden sculptures, as well as the medial grade secret treasures beside them, flew into Xiao Chen's hand. Why is 1 medial grade secret treasure missing? Xiao Chen looked at the 2 secret treasures in his hand and frowned, doubtful. When Xiao Chen looked back, he saw Bai Lixi's stout figure holding a secret treasure and waving at him in the crowd with a smile. If there anyone could see through Xiao Chen's plan, it would be Bai Lixi, who had watched him all the while. Never mind, at least he left me with two. I should leave first. Xiao Chen placed the secret treasures into his universe ring and dodged the torrent of attacks coming at him, continuously moving forward. Young man, all you have to do is to drop the demon core, and I will let you go immediately. You can keep the 3 medial grade secret treasures and the corpses of my companions. My holy fire manor will not cause you any trouble. Otherwise, no matter who you are or what powers you have behind you, you will not escape from the pursuit of the holy fire manor. Old Qin's vigorous voice reverberated everywhere within 5 kilometers. Everyone heard his message clearly. Damn it. This fellow is too daring. The medial grade secret treasures, the corpses of half-step martial monarchs, and the peak high rank blood demon's demon core, he actually monopolized them all. When everyone heard the old man's words, they broke out in chaos. This fellow was too ruthless. Then, they thought of themselves. They fought with each other for the sake of a few inferior grade secret treasures. Yet Xiao Chen managed to snatch those with the most value. What is disparity? This is a disparity. If this fellow escapes alive, he will be famous, a peak superior grade martial king side. However, even if he manages to escape, he would not have a good ending. The Holy Fire Manor has great influence in the southern islands of the ancient desolate land. It is not wise to offend the Holy Fire Manor. Someone at the side laughed and said, "Your thinking is too simplistic. I remember who this fellow is. He is the recently famous white-robed bladesman from the Great Qin Nation. In the past, when he first debuted, he offended half the noble clans in the Great Qin Nation. I wager that with his temper, the Holy Fire Manor would not be able to do anything to him. Just you wait. If old Qin catches him, then all is well. Otherwise, the peak high rank blood demon's demon core, the treasures in his companion's spatial rings, and the 3 medial grade secret treasures are gone for sure." Xiao Chen ignored old Qin's words as he continued forward. His opponents chased closely after him. Even with the aid of the blood flame shoes, he could not shake these half-step martial monarchs. As Xiao Chen had to dodge the torrent of attacks, he slowed down. If he allowed his opponents' words to distract him, they would definitely catch him. As for promises of letting him go after he dropped the demon core, Xiao Chen did not believe them. Old Qin, this fellow's speed has reached Mach 3.5. It is not easy to catch him. An old man huffed. Old Qin moved as quickly as lightning as he flew. He said indifferently, "In that case, you can stay but forget about getting a share of the demon core." The moment old Qin spoke, that old man did not dare retort. Even if he had to overdraw his essence, he would not stop. Xiao Chen repeatedly pushed off the ground as he executed the Azure Dragon cloud soaring art to its limits. He looked like an Azure Dragon dancing across the earth. Boom! 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 The half-step martial monarchs continued their pursuit from the air, raining down attacks furiously. Xiao Chen carefully dodged all of the attacks. The horrifying energies of the attacks were frightening. If one accidentally hit him, Xiao Chen would fall. The attacks are too dense. If I carry on like this, one will hit me sooner or later. Furthermore, they slow me down. I have to find a way to disperse them. Xiao Chen tumbled across the ground. He mumbled to himself as he bounced up, and 3 wooden sculptures appeared in his hand. Life bestowal spell. 3 white figures appeared around Xiao Chen. The moment they appeared, they immediately headed in 3 different directions. They looked exactly like the real one. Recognizing the true target was difficult. Who in this world knew Xiao Chen the best? It was only Xiao Chen, himself. Hence, the sculptures that he had carved were quite realistic. They were nearly indistinguishable from the real one. Old Qin. What should we do? Which one should we chase? When 3 more figures appeared, the 10-odd people chasing from the air stopped in confusion. When they used their mental energy to check, all 4 seemed real. They could not tell which was the real one. Old Chin's expression was sullen. After muttering for a while, he quickly made a decision. This brat has many tricks. Screw it, split up and chase. We can let any of them escape. We cannot let this brat get away. The 10-odd people immediately split into 4 groups, each heading in a different direction. Old Chin and an old man quickly chased after the real Xiao Chen. Old Chin was confident of a 60% chance that this was the real one. However, Old Chin could not be certain either. He could not afford to think too much. The longer he paused to ponder, the further Xiao Chen would get. Hence, he could only make the decision to split up. Now that only 2 remained, the densely packed attacks immediately lessened. Xiao Chen felt more relaxed. He waved his hand, and another wooden sculpture appeared. This was the sculpture of Ying Yu. Normally, Xiao Chen could have reused these sculptures. However, he needed to sacrifice them, using them to lure away his pursuers to save his own skin. He tossed the sculpture, and Ying Yu instant held up her spear and blocked the 2 people behind with a blazing aura. Old Chin's expression changed slightly. He said in astonishment, "This is the great Qin nation's first princess. How can it be? No, that's not right. This is a clone as well. Hold her off. I will continue after him." The old man beside him nodded. He said, "Old Chin, be careful. This fellow is full of tricks. You are already exhausted, so use caution." Old Chin snorted, "Be careful. He is merely an inferior grade martial king. No matter how many tricks he has, I can squash him with one hand." Finally, only 1 person remained of the group that had initially chased him. Xiao Chen heaved a small sigh of relief. A pillar of light descending from the sky appeared in Xiao Chen's vision. He smiled faintly. He had finally reached the exit of the demon battlefield. Thinking of leaving. How can that be so easy? Huge sand palm. Old Chin roared and smashed his palm towards the ground. The image of a huge palm appeared from thin air and instantly pressed itself to the ground. Hu Kai! Hu Kai! The hard ground instantly moved the waves on the sea. Boom! A massive hand of sand formed quickly. It was more than 200 meters tall. When it spread its fingers, it covered the sky. In an instant, it enveloped Xiao Chen. The sand hand cast an immense shadow, darkening Xiao Chen's vision. Xiao Chen felt a dangerous aura and was startled by what his spiritual sense discovered in his surroundings. This huge sand palm captured the timing very well. Old Chin had calculated his speed and enveloped him in that instant. Once the 5-finger closed in, Xiao Chen would either die or suffer severe injuries under the horrifying pressure. I have to escape quickly. Xiao Chen did not even have to think about it. He thrust essence into the blood flame shoes on his feet. Instantly, his body rushed uncontrollably to the only bright spot in his vision. Bang! The sand hand clenched its fingers, and a colossal explosion resounded. An energy, infused with the state of earth, surged to the ground. Xiao Chen, who had just escaped, was caught off guard and got stuck. He vomited a mouthful of blood in the air and tumbled before he fell to the ground. Old Chin became so pale that he looked frightening. There did not seem to be any blood in his face. Evidently, that earlier move had exhausted a lot of essence. When Old Chin saw Xiao Chen vomit a mouthful of blood but continuing to rush forward, he shouted angrily, "Damn it! I can't believe he escaped. Sand shackles." Old Chin landed on the ground and shouted. He stuck his right hand tightly to the ground. The ground crested and fell in waves relentlessly. Xiao Chen felt the ground below him loosen, and he immediately sank into the earth. Countless grains of sand flowed like liquid and quickly formed a huge cage that captured Xiao Chen within as he sank. Wu Kui breaks the heavens. Xiao Chen struggled out from the sand-filled ground and did not hesitate to execute his strongest killing moves. At this point, he could not afford to hesitate. If he could not break out of this cage, he would be completely sealed. The moment he had an opportunity, he immediately used the Wukui breaks the heavens. A white beam of light rapidly elongated on the snow-white blade of the saber. Soon, it reached 1,000 meters. This beam of light had two strong states merged into it. It tore open a large hole in the wall of sand. Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and he rushed out. "Brat. You can't run anymore, right?" The moment Xiao Chen emerged, he saw Old Qin flying at him with a sinister expression. He was about 100 meters away, and his fingers were spread apart, reaching for Xiao Chen. Kai. Kai. The sharp fingers carried a powerful force. Everywhere it passed, it created marks in the air. The old man moved extremely fast. He traveled 100 meters in the blink of an eye. He swung his arm down, and before he pierced Xiao Chen's shoulder, at the critical moment, Xiao Chen spun around and struck the old man's shoulder with two fingers of his right hand. Old Qin felt a strong force on his right shoulder and some pain. He circulated his essence and dissipated the force. He smiled faintly and said, "Based on your strength, I can stand here all day and let you hit me, but you will still not break through my defenses. How dare to snatch my things? Die." Bang! The moment Old Qin spoke, his right hand moved down, and a bloody hole suddenly appeared on his shoulder. Then, he fell. Xiao Chen waved his hand, and the tiny palm sword returned. Xiao Chen did not bother to see how much damage the palm sword had inflicted to Old Qin. He immediately moved towards the pillar of light. Old Qin clenched the wound on his shoulder and revealed a miserable expression on his pale face. He did not expect Xiao Chen to have hidden an offensive peak inferior grade secret treasure in his palm. Old Qin waved his hand and took out a medicinal pill. He revealed a pained expression and hesitated for a moment before he swallowed the pill. The pill melted upon entering his mouth. The bloody wound on Old Qin's right shoulder visibly healed. This was a rank 8 treatment holy medicine. It could cause an unexpected recovery at a crucial moment. For the sake of instantly healing his wound, he had not hesitated to use it. For the sake of the demon core, Old Qin had willingly used a treatment holy medicine. The hatred in his eyes intensified. When he saw Xiao Chen escape through the pillar of light, he quickly resumed the chase. When Old Qin went through the pillar of light, his figure turned blurry. He left the demon battlefield and returned to Boulder Island. He quickly glanced around, searching for Xiao Chen. Strange, where did that brat go? Why do I not see him anywhere? Mach 3.5 can't be that fast. Old Qin looked around and saw nothing. Suspicion filled his gaze. Just as Old Qin began to feel suspicious, a strong aura of massacre suddenly appeared above him. A state of massacre and a tyrannical dragon might followed the aura. Old Qin's expression changed greatly as he looked up. He saw Xiao Chen descending from the sky. The image of an azure dragon spiraled on his right arm as he clenched his fist and punched down. Boom! The dragon roared, and space rippled. Old Qin immediately felt a supreme dragon might descend from the sky like a mountain pressing on him. Old Qin found it difficult to move. He could only express his horror. He quickly took out an exquisite shield and blew on it. The shield quickly grew and emitted a blue light, shielding Old Qin. The blue light was translucent, and its spiritual energy was immense. This shield was a defensive early medial grade secret treasure. However, the light of the shield seemed rather dim. Clearly, Old Qin had exhausted too much essence and did not have any way to use its full power. Bang! The dragon head crashed into the shield, and the blue light rippled and broke. Blood leaked from the corner of Old Qin's mouth. Azure Dragon Tail Whip. Xiao Chen shouted, and the image of the azure dragon focused its last bit of energy on its tail. It moved in an arc and bypassed the shield as it whipped Old Qin. Pussy. Old Qin flew backward as he vomited mouthfuls of blood. When Xiao Chen saw the miserable Old Qin, many thoughts appeared in his head. In the end, he resisted the idea of going forward to kill him. The other party still had companions who had not yet arrived. If they arrived at this moment, everything would be over. Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and he left swiftly. He felt it was somewhat unfortunate. This time, he had almost used all of his trump cards and still could not kill his opponent. Xiao Chen would never again run into this opponent with exhausted essence and mental energy. Not long after Xiao Chen left, the pillar of light flickered a few times. The few half-step martial monarchs chasing Xiao Chen's clones had finally arrived. They looked at the ground and saw a shield tossed aside in Old Qin, pale with blood leaking from his mouth. The few of them were greatly astonished and quickly rushed over. Old Qin, are you fine? Old Qin stood up somewhat weakly and looked in the direction Xiao Chen had left. His gaze looked like it would spew fire at any moment. He said coldly, I won't die. This brat cannot possibly leave the southern islands so fast. Quick, bring me to the Holy Fire Manor. I can't resolve this hatred until I find this brat. The few of them exchanged glances, then they looked at the severely injured Old Qin. They could not understand. Xiao Chen was an inferior grade martial king. How could he have injured Old Qin? Even if Old Qin were exhausted, he was still very strong. It should have been easy for him to crush an inferior grade martial king. Northeast of Boulder Island, a small silver ship sped through the sky. Xiao Chen sat cross-legged in the ship's hold. He held a medial grade spirit stone in his hand as he slowly recovered his essence. Using the blood flame shoes for a long time had exhausted Xiao Chen's essence. At the same time, he had used the life bestowal spell in Roaming Dragon's 9 transformations, exhausting his essence even faster. In a matter of 4 hours, Xiao Chen's essence was mostly gone. Fortunately, he managed to escape the pursuit of Old Qin and the others before he ran out. Everything went almost as Xiao Chen had planned. There were not many deviations. After Xiao Chen broke through to the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation 6th later, the rate of Xiao Chen's spiritual energy absorption had tripled. A medial grade spirit stone, which had originally lasted him half a day, drained in half an hour. Xiao Chen opened his eyes and checked his purple chi whirlpool. He saw that it was only half full, and he frowned slightly. 2 medial grade spirit stones could only last Xiao Chen an hour. Furthermore, its efficiency was halved. The exhaustion of a heaven-ranked cultivation technique seemed to be greater than he had expected. If Xiao Chen counted it by the day, that was at least 10 medial grade spirit stones. When his Purple Thunder Divine Incantation advanced further in the future, the exhaustion would increase as well. Currently, Xiao Chen had more than 50,000 medial grade spirit stones. He did not have to worry about it. However, it would be hard to say in the future. No wonder those peak geniuses all sought a strong power to back them. When geniuses compete, it was not just their individual talents that mattered. Natural treasures and superior quality resources were equally important. It was simple reasoning. The difference between 2 cultivators with the same talent but different resources, one with access to unlimited support and one without, would be massive in the later stages. The gap might even be impossible to overcome. Furthermore, this was only for cultivation below martial monarch. If Xiao Chen wished to continue with the same rate of cultivation by then, he would need to use superior grade spirit stones. When Xiao Chen calculated this, the exhaustion of spirit stones became even more horrifying. Given the condition of the Great Qin nation, even the royal courts would find it challenging to maintain such upkeep. Who could afford to groom martial monarch geniuses? Perhaps only the strong sects of the Great Jin nation could afford to raise such geniuses. Xiao Chen collected his thoughts and took out the clear sky medallion from the universe ring. He grasped the clear sky medallion tightly in his right hand and pondered. The Supreme Sky Sect was one of the 10 peak sects in the Great Jin Nation. It was unknown if they could support the upkeep of their own martial monarchs. However, once Xiao Chen accepted the resources of others, he would be shackled to that source. There was no such thing as a free lunch. Never mind. There is no need to think about all this now. With the resources I have now, it is sufficient. I will deal with these problems when they come. Let's inspect my harvest this time. Xiao Chen put away the clear sky medallion and took out the corpses of the 3 half-step martial monarchs. The wounds on the 3 corpses were horrifying. A black qi lingered in the wounds. The surrounding flesh so was extremely corroded that Xiao Chen could not bear to look at them. A strong smell wafted from the wounds. Xiao Chen gently prodded the wounds and picked up some of black qi on his fingertip. The black qi continually corroded his flesh, trying to enter his body. What gave Xiao Chen a headache was that his emotions seemed to have become jittery. A strand of purple flames lit up on the tip of his finger and burned the black qi into nothing. Illusionary screams rang out in Xiao Chen's mind. The black qi seemed to be alive. What a horrifying baleful aura. If this attack pierced the flesh and he could not get rid of it in time, even the smallest wound would be fatal when it reached the meridians. This should not be a regular state of massacre. Some of the demon's special negative states were infused in it, such as desperation, pain, anger, and some others. Otherwise, it could not achieve such effects. In the future, if I incurred any wounds like this, I cannot be careless. Otherwise, it may result in a great disaster. These 3 people might have died like this. Xiao Chen removed the spatial rings from the corpses and tossed the corpses into the lake. He then began to investigate the treasures in the spatial rings. Xiao Chen opened the first spatial ring with his spiritual sense. He was instantly dazzled. He saw a large pile of medial-grade spirit stones. A rough count gave Xiao Chen at least 20,000 medial-grade spirit stones. As for inferior-grade spirit stones, there was a staggering amount of at least 100,000. What a rich fellow. Xiao Chen had killed many peak martial kings, and the total number of medial-grade spirit stones he possessed was only 50,000. This 1 half-step martial monarch had 20,000 medial-grade spirit stones of his own. However, thinking about it, these old men had lived for at least 100 years. They had been stuck at half-step martial monarch for several decades. It was not surprising that they had managed to accumulate so much wealth. Xiao Chen continued looking and found some high-rank blood demons' demon cores. They should have been obtained from the demon battlefield. Aside from these, there was a few inferior-grade secret treasure. However, they were ordinary goods. None of them caught Xiao Chen's attention. Before Xiao Chen retracted his spiritual sense, he noticed an unremarkable black box sitting in a corner. The box was palm-sized, and he would not have noticed it if not for his sharp eyesight. Would this box, which had been placed in an inconspicuous corner, contain anything useful? Xiao Chen thought for a while before he took the box out. The box was not locked, and Xiao Chen could open it easily. 10 exquisite white pearls lay in that small space. The pearls looked like crystals. It did not emit any spiritual energy. Compared to spirit stones, they looked very plain. Xiao Chen picked one up and checked it with his spiritual sense. Only then did he feel the pure spiritual energy contained within. The spiritual energy in it was purer than that of medial-grade spirit stones. Xiao Chen estimated that this tiny pearl was the equivalent of at least 100 medial-grade spirit stones. Suddenly, a thought occurred to Xiao Chen. He felt that the pearls looked familiar. Then, he remembered that there seemed to be 2 similar pearls among the burial items of the Savannah King. So, he quickly took them out to compare. The two pearls seemed about the same size. They appeared extremely ordinary and did not leak any spiritual energy. Xiao Chen only sensed the horrifying spiritual energy contained within when he checked it with his spiritual sense. The only difference was that the Savannah King's pearls were blue, and their color seemed deeper. Furthermore, the spiritual energy contained within them was on a completely different level. Xiao Chen still felt confident of absorbing the spiritual energy in the white pearls. However, he did not dare think of doing the same for the blue pearls. With Xiao Chen's current cultivation, after he absorbed the spiritual energy from the blue pearls, he would likely explode and die. Xiao Chen muttered, "These two types of pearls should be the same thing. They probably just differ in quality. However, I have not heard of anything like them before. I have to investigate this. Are there other things aside from spirit stones that can contain spiritual energy?" Xiao Chen properly organized and placed the spirit stones and mysterious pearls into his universe ring. As for the other items, he simply tossed them all into a corner of the universe ring, including the spatial ring. Xiao Chen obtained another 40,000 medial-grade spirit stones from the remaining two spatial rings. However, he did not find any more of those mysterious pearls. Even so, Xiao Chen had found 100 superior-grade spirit stones in the third spatial ring. He was pleasantly surprised. This brought the total count of Xiao Chen's medial-grade spirit stones to a horrifying 110,000 in addition to millions of inferior-grade spirit stones. Aside from these, there were 2 medial-grade secret treasures and 1 peak high-rank blood demon's demon core. When added, they valued at least 100,000 spirit stones. Xiao Chen's rewards from the demon battlefield were bountiful. The only loss he had was half of his Wudong spiritual wood. Also, he needed to accumulate the dragon chi on his arm before he could use it again. After he completed these tasks, Xiao Chen organized everything in his universe ring by type. He discovered that he had accumulated quite a number of small trinkets. He had obtained these trinkets by killing other cultivators. On their own, they were not worth much. However, when combined, they were worth a significant sum. Storing too much took up a lot of space in the universe ring. Xiao Chen took out a map of the ancient desolate land and muttered to himself, "I have to find a place to sell these. At the same time, I should find out more about the powers in the ancient desolate land and how much influence the Holy Fire Manor has here." The ancient desolate land was very large, much larger than Xiao Chen had expected. Not even counting the cities in the surrounding area, the Heavenly Extermination Lake alone was larger than the Great Qin Nation. Although the Heavenly Extermination Lake was called a lake, it was as vast as a sea, an inland sea. This was simply too expansive. Based on the map Xiao Chen had purchased in the Boulder City, the Heavenly Extermination Lake was separated into the southern, western, northern, and eastern group of islands. There was the central group of islands, in which the desolate city was the core. Aside from these regions, there were many unknown zones on the Heavenly Extermination Lake. Cultivators considered those zones forbidden. It was hard to imagine that, during the Tianwu dynasty, the core of the entire continent become what it was now. Boulder Island was part of the southern group of islands. It was an unremarkable island. If it were not for the demon battlefield, no one would bother going there. The southern group consisted of thousands of islands. Some of them were unpopulated and covered with ferocious demonic beasts and demonized plants. Cultivators used them as grounds for experiential training. There were also islands covered in greenery and an overwhelming spiritual energy. As spiritual energy saturated these islands, spirit herbs and endless gardens swarmed them. However, most of the islands were no different from the human cities. Thousands to several 10,000 ordinary people resided there. Some of these cities had feudal lords ruling them, as well as sects. Xiao Chen's new target was the Red Cloud Island. This was the closest inhabited island. It was considered a middle-tier island in the southern group. Although the map depicted it as being the closest to Xiao Chen's current position, only a finger's width distance away, in reality, it was 2,000 kilometers away. However, there was a benefit to being on a lake. Xiao Chen could simply travel in a straight line. Unlike on land, two cities might be very close, but due to the roads and obstructions like mountains or rivers, one might have to go the long way around to get to the other city. Xiao Chen estimated that if he moved at a relaxed pace, he could arrive in a week. If he rushed at full speed, he could arrive in 3 days. Xiao Chen had already left the borders of Boulder Island. His lone ship was like a drop of water in the vast ocean on this humongous lake. It did not draw any attention. Xiao Chen did not believe that the Holy Fire Manor's people could find him like this. Hence, he planned to travel leisurely. At the same time, he would use these 7 days to temper his physical body. The firmament body tempering art had a requirement before one could cultivate it. His physical strength had to reach 150,000 kilograms of force before he could cultivate it. When he cultivated the dragon and tiger body sculpting art to the peak, Xiao Chen's full power strike only achieved 125,000 kilograms of force. He was still short of a little. To improve further, Xiao Chen could only rely on external aid. The so-called external aid referred to the body-tempering spirit herb above 500 years of age that he had obtained on Chinran Island. Xiao Chen had once used a large number of body-tempering spirit herbs in the underground world of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Hence, normal body-tempering spirit herbs had no effect on him. On Chinran Island, all of the body-tempering spirit herbs Xiao Chen had picked were above 500 years old. Unfortunately, there were only 6 stalks. Xiao Chen placed the body-tempering spirit herbs on the floor before him and muttered to himself, "There are only 6 stalks, but 3 are 1,000 years old. If I consume all of them, I should have no problem gaining an additional 25,000 kilograms of force." As long as Xiao Chen achieved 150,000 kilograms of force, that would be sufficient. When he started to cultivate the inferior grade heaven-ranked body-tempering cultivation technique, his physical strength would increase explosively. The small silver ship moved unhurriedly across the calm lake, gliding towards its destination. As for Xiao Chen, he had consumed 1 spirit herb stalk and sat cross-legged. He started to focus on refining the medicinal energy. He absorbed all the medicinal energy into his bones without missing a drop. 4 days had passed quickly. Every time Xiao Chen refined a stalk of spirit herb, he could feel his bones, meridians, and flesh grow stronger. His strength had also increased significantly. On this particular day, Xiao Chen suddenly opened his eyes. He circulated his energies and punched the calm lake. Bang! The fist wind formed by Xiao Chen's pure physical force created a void of 20 meters wide on the surface of the lake. After a moment, a pillar of water rose up to the sky. Many fishes and prawns flew into the sky with the pillar of water and fell back down. They rained down for minutes before coming to a stop. Xiao Chen pulled back his fist and revealed a satisfied smile. He had achieved 150,000 kilograms of force in 5 days. Furthermore, he still had 1 stalk of 1,000-year-old spirit herbs. Xiao Chen did not continue to refine it. At his level, even a 1,000-year-old spirit herb would not be very effective. Since he had reached the threshold for cultivating the firmament body tempering art, there was no need to waste that spirit herb. It's been 5 days. I should reach the Red Cloud Island soon. Xiao Chen muttered to himself as he gazed at the lake before him. White mist covered the distant lake surface. The faint silhouette of an island appeared. It should be Red Cloud Island. It is time to move at full speed, Xiao Chen thought to himself. The small silver ship immediately transformed into a streak of purple light and entered his right eye. Xiao Chen gently pushed against the water and executed the azure dragon cloud soaring art. He moved like a swift azure dragon across the surface of the water. Boom. 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 No long after, Xiao Chen felt intense energy waves from ahead. There was shouting, and the water surged restlessly. Clearly, a battle was taking place ahead of him. Based on the energy waves, neither side was weak. Xiao Chen hesitated for a while before he flew towards the sound. After 10 breaths, Xiao Chen finally saw who engaged in this battle. 1,000 meters away, a black-robed old man and a girl in a white dress fought on the water surface. The black-robed old man seemed to be a medial-grade martial king. He held a pitch-black sword in his hand with a black chi surrounding it. His aura felt odd, and his moves were vicious. He aimed for the girl's vital spots. The girl's cultivation seemed to be higher than the black-robed cultivators. However, because of that strange black chi, she was very cautious and seemed to be at a slight disadvantage. However, in Xiao Chen's opinion, the girl had the advantage here. The black-robed cultivator tried to flee a few times, but she always blocked his path. Evidently, the girl sought stability. She used her advantage of cultivation and dragged on the fight. Then, she would give the black-robed man a fatal blow. Xiao Chen frowned slightly. He was somewhat astonished. The aura of the sword seemed very similar to the scarred man's from Chinran Island. That was demonic chi from the demonic world. This black-robed cultivator was a remnant of the Dark Church with a demonic beast martial spirit. According to the laws of the continent, if one saw a remnant of the Dark Church, they had to work together to kill him. After all, the other party was once the common enemy of the continent. Xiao Chen thought for a while and pushed himself off the lake's surface ferociously. He sent an intense fist wind at the black-robed cultivator. Xiao Chen surprised the black-robed cultivator. However, when he discovered Xiao Chen was only an inferior-grade martial king, his look of surprise turned into a smile. This brat overestimates himself. Coincidentally, I can use him as a hostage and escape. This girl is too strong. I cannot let this drag on. The black-robed cultivator parried the girl's attack with his sword and clenched his left fist. Strands of black chi spiraled around his fist. He revealed a sinister smile as he welcomed Xiao Chen's fist with his own. Be careful. There is demonic chi on his fist. You cannot clash head-on with him, the girl cried out when she saw Xiao Chen suddenly appear. She could not help but feel exasperated. The fight had gone fairly well, but now this reckless stranger had involved himself. Xiao Chen remained calm but did not care too much about the warning. He merged his physical strength and essence. When infusing his essence with his physical strength of 150,000 kilograms, his full power strike could now achieve 250,000 kilograms of force. This was Xiao Chen's peak punch under his most ideal conditions. Bang! A crunching sound rang out as a tremulous force surged forth. The black-robed cultivator's arm was instantly crippled, all the bones in his arm shattered. When the two fists met, a loud sound rang out and generated an intense shockwave. It caused a ring of 10-meter-tall waves to rise around them. Under the girl's astonished gaze, Xiao Chen's fist wind seemed to have blown the black chi into oblivion. Pussy. The black-robed cultivator vomited a large mouthful of blood. His pale face filled with shock. His opponent's strength reached an incredulous level, 250,000 kilograms of force. Aside from some peak superior-grade martial kings who cultivated superior-grade earth-ranked cultivation techniques, very few could achieve such strength. I have to run. That girl was difficult to deal with in the first place. Now, there is this strange brat. If I don't leave, I might never escape. The black-robed cultivator spun around and dove into the lake, thinking of making an underwater escape. Trying to leave. How can it be so easy? Xiao Chen stepped forward and shouted. He violently punched the water surface, and a huge void appeared before a pillar of water shot into the air. The pillar of water blasted the black-robed cultivator, along with countless fish and prawns, into the air. At this moment, the girl recovered her wits and flew forward. Her sword emitted a bright light as she brandished it. The girl moved like a butterfly fluttering up and down. However, the girl's sword light was extremely sharp. It seemed very solid. Xiao Chen had never seen such dense sword light before. In an instant, the girl sent out hundreds of sword lights, creating hundreds of bloody holes of various sizes on the black-robed cultivator's body. Bang! When the pillar of water fell, the black-robed cultivator's body fell into the lake as well. However, he was already dead. This girl looked beautiful and delicate, but when she made a move, she was especially decisive and sharp. Ka Ca. The girl lopped off the head of the black-robed cultivator and casually tossed it into her spatial ring. After that, she retrieved the other party's spatial ring. Her movements seemed practiced and smooth. Thank you for your help. What is your name? The girl smiled gently and looked at Xiao Chen after she finished her tasks. Originally, the girl had thought that, when Xiao Chen made a move to help, he might compromise her own safety in the process. Unexpectedly, that had not happened. Instead, he saved her a lot of time. She felt somewhat curious about this strong, young stranger. Xiao Chen responded calmly, "It's fine. Working together to kill a remnant of the Dark Church is expected of us all." When the girl heard Xiao Chen, she was slightly stunned. She carefully measured up Xiao Chen. Then, she smiled gently and asked, "You are new to the ancient desolate land, right?" Xiao Chen felt suspicious as he replied, "Yes, I am." "How did you know?" The girl smiled and said, "After staying in the ancient desolate land, you will stop asking such things. Please explain what you mean." The girl then proceeded to tell Xiao Chen about the customs and reasons in detail. It turned out that the ancient desolate land was home to many of the Dark Church's remnants. Furthermore, they even formed a middle-sized power. However, no one bothered about them. There was no other reason than this being the ancient desolate land where all sorts of powers gathered. The ancient desolate land was full of wanted criminals and evil murderers who treated life like grass on the roadside. Once they arrived here, the wanted notices for these people were no longer effective. Since the fall of the Tianwu dynasty, the ancient desolate land had become an ungoverned land, turning chaotic. Furthermore, for some strange reason, there had never been any stories of the 5 great nations or strong sects attempting to occupy the ancient desolate land. Since a time beyond memory, the ancient desolate land was an absolutely neutral location on the continent. Even those who chased evil experts in the name of righteousness would relent once their prey reached these islands. In the ancient desolate land, strength spoke loudest. Chivalry. Morals. These were just jokes. Even the common enemy of humans, the remnants of the Dark Church, would not be cornered or attacked. They would receive the same treatment as any ordinary cultivators. Unless they infringed on someone else's interests, no one would chase and kill them. After Xiao Chen heard that, he finally understood. This ancient desolate land was truly a wondrous place. However, it was still unknown why the various great nations and sects harbored no intentions of ruling the ancient desolate land. Such a large expanse of land was more than just a fat piece of meat. Thinking about it, the ancient desolate land should have strong powers within, operating in the dark. Otherwise, they could not prevent others from spying on them. After the girl spoke, she continued, "Let me introduce myself formally. I am Xia Xian, from the Great Xia Nation's Thousand Sword Pavilion." Xiao Chen had heard of the Thousand Sword Pavilion before. They were one of the peak sects of the Great Xia Nation. Their strength was on par with the Great Chu Nation's Heavenly Sword Gate. They were somewhat famous within the 4 lesser great nations. Xiao Chen nodded gently and said, Xiao Chen, from the great Qin nation. I am currently sectless. Xia Xian seemed stunned. She could not believe that Xiao Chen was sectless. Xiao Chen's punch could achieve 250,000 kilograms of force. Even in the talent-packed Great Jin nation, at least some of the great sects would notice such talent. However, although Xia Xian felt curious, she would not dig into Xiao Chen's history without reason. Everyone had their own secrets. Based on your direction, you seem to be heading to Heavenly Spring Island. Coincidentally, I have just finished my mission as well. Let's go together. Xia Xian invited. Xiao Chen was stunned for a moment before he said, Isn't it Red Cloud Island that way? How did it become Heavenly Spring Island? Xia Xian said confidently, The island ahead is Heavenly Spring Island. It is one of the 6 big islands second to the main island of the south. You must have gotten lost. Xiao Chen could not help but smile bitterly. He took out the map and compared. Red Cloud Island was to the south and Heavenly Spring Island was east. The difference in distance was at least 500 kilometers. Xiao Chen did not know how he got here. How did you travel? Xia Xian asked gently. Xiao Chen thought for a while and decided on the truth, I rode on a ship. He rode on a ship. That should be a flying secret treasure, Xia Xian thought. She could not tell that Xiao Chen had such a treasure. However, that would explain what had happened. Xia Xian explained, no wonder. The heavenly extermination lake may seem calm with no wind, but there are a lot of undercurrents. Occasionally, they can even form strong currents. If one is not an experienced helmsman, even if they have a map, they will travel in the wrong direction. The main island of the southern group of islands, Longyang Island, was something like the province capital of the Zaihe province. It was the core island of the southern group. The only difference from a province capital was that it did not control the other islands. 6 islands surrounded the main island, Longyang Island, second in size only to it. The Heavenly Spring Island was one of them. Never mind. Since I have already arrived at Heavenly Spring Island, I will just go there. Red Cloud Island is only a small island. What I can do there, I definitely can do on Heavenly Spring Island. The two of them executed their movement techniques and dashed towards Heavenly Springs Island on the water surface. Along the way, Xiao Chen heard of how Xia Xian and the black-robed cultivator ended up fighting. The remnants of the Dark Church had not changed their name in the ancient desolate land. They had many experts within the Dark Church. However, they were still a far cry from their previous self. In the past, they were a great power on the continent. Not long ago, the Dark Church engaged in a dispute with another power of the ancient desolate land, the Blood Wolf Gang. They both posted bounties at the Heavenly Extermination Union, offering rewards for killing disciples of the other side. Since Xia Xian had something to do on Heavenly Springs Island, she conveniently picked up the bounty the Blood Wolf Gang had issued. Xiao Chen asked, how high did the black-robed cultivator from earlier rank in the Dark Church? How much can you get from killing him? Xia Xian's reflection on the water surface flickered. She said softly, the Dark Church has 1 church master, 2 deputy church masters, 9 elders, and 108 protectors. The remaining are merely trash of varying strengths. The one we killed earlier was one of the 108 protectors. However, the protectors now cannot compare to those of the past. The older generation of protectors were all at least half-step martial monarchs. Unfortunately, most of them have already died. The one we just killed was one of the people used to make up the numbers. Given this, Xiao Chen finally had a rough idea of the Dark Church's strength. Even though the Dark Church was much weaker than in the past, the 9 elders should be martial monarchs. Furthermore, there were some old protectors who had not died yet. They were much stronger than the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Xiao Chen continued asked, why are they fighting? Do such large-scale fights frequently occur in the ancient desolate land?